Hey guys, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Ash Paulson to discuss a rumored first-year lineup for the Nintendo Switch. So, let's get started. Alright Ash, it really wasn't that long ago that we discussed something similar to this. But Laura K. Dale recently tweeted the first-year lineup for the Switch as far as she understands it. It's a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more specific, and there are some new things here to talk about as well. Now, since it was, similar enough, I wasn't sure people actually wanted a discussion about this, but I put a tweet out there with a poll, and most of our audience wants us to discuss this, so...
Of course.
They just can't get enough of us talking about this stuff. And I figured we'd just go through what Laura tweeted out, pretty much as she tweeted it. She put it into 3 different sections, or 4 different sections. She's got day 1 games are going to come in the first 6 months, games for the remainder of 2017, and then 1 game for beyond that. Now, it should be mentioned, this list is not comprehensive. It's only covering the games she knows about, so there may be even more beyond this. And this list is primarily first-party focused, and maybe second-party as well, and a few third-party games in there primarily. So it should be mentioned, this is not comprehensive. There is probably a lot more out there we don't know about, especially third-party related. So, let's get to it, though. Day 1, she is saying 3D Mario is going to be there. Mario Rabbids RPG, which we've already talked about pretty in depth. The Splatoon port, which she iterates, might be a pack-in for the more expensive Switch SKU. Skyrim, although she does clarify she's heard this is debated among other journalist friends she has. So according to her sources, it is day 1. According to others she's heard from, it may not be. And then there's also Just Dance 2017. As well, which, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer at this point. But it does reemphasize, and well, in fact, she reemphasizes the fact that the Joy-Cons are going to have motion controls built into them, which, you'd have to for a title like Just Dance, unless there was camera support or something. Alright, so, that's what she knows of for day 1. What are your overall thoughts on that, Ash?
My thoughts are that it's really sad that we used to be able to count on a new Ridge Racer at each console's launch, and how there's no Ridge Racer 8. Listed here.
Oh, that's a good point.
For Switch. I mean, I knew, Ridge Racer's been dead since the PS3's launch, so I wasn't expecting it. But I just keep thinking, wow, you used to be able to take that to the bank. There'd be a new Ridge Racer with every new console launch. Period.
Bandai Namco dropping the ball here, man.
I know. Other than the lack of Ridge Racer 8. No, this is a pretty strong, I would say, day 1 lineup, especially if Splatoon is, or Splatoon, whatever it ends up being, is a pack-in. That's fantastic, at least for one of the SKUs, and... I think it would be great to have Skyrim on launch day. I think they kind of need to, because looking at this day 1 lineup, it's pretty good, but other than the 3D Mario, like Mario Switch, there's not like a really meaty single-player adventure game in this lineup that they have other than 3D Mario. So I'm thinking if they can get Skyrim by launch, that would be good to have. And then Just Dance is Just Dance. I mean, it's, there's going to be a new Just Dance on at every console's launch for, until the end of time, probably.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, having Skyrim day 1 would be a very good thing for the console, and it would fill in that meaty gap that we'd be missing with Zelda, potentially being pushed out to later in the year. So it makes sense not to have those competing against each other, because they are, similar in concept. I mean, when we first saw Breath of the Wild, it's like, that looks like Skyrim to some degree. So... Right.
Well, then we don't really know how the Mario Rabbids RPG is going to come off to people. We don't really know how that's going, how wide an appeal it's going to have yet. And I have a suspicion that there's not really going to be a ton of crossover between people who might be all over Mario Switch, and then people who are like, oh, Mario Rabbids RPG that plays kind of like an XCOM game,
That's the odd one out here. I just find it weird they would launch a brand new Mario Rabbids hybrid on the same day as a new 3D Mario.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem odd, just because why would you have both 3D Mario and a new Mario RPG on launch day? I feel like if they're both Mario, you could space them out a little bit. I agree that having them both on day 1 seems a little strange. Unless they're billing it, maybe in terms of the marketing and the way they're going to bill it, they're going to bill it as a Rabbids game with Mario and Yoshi in it, and not necessarily a Mario game.
That's a great point. It kind of ties into what I suggested in our Mario and Rayman discussion, that I'm feeling that they may downplay Mario's role himself in the game, and maybe focus on more of the other characters, such as Yoshi, which it's already rumored there's more of a focus on him anyway. I could see that then. In fact, I think this actually might lend credence to the idea, just because I can't see them launching it with 2 primarily Mario-focused games. It just seems like they're competing with each other.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I also just feel like one of them has that mass appeal while one of them doesn't, so why release them on the same day when one would completely drown out the other.
Right. Splatoon. Again, this is something we've talked about before, but that being their launch day is pretty great. Now, I will... Again, my exact perspective on this is going to change depending on how much of a port it is or isn't. I mean, no matter what, it's a good idea. It's good to be there regardless. If it really does... if it really is adhering as to being more of a sequel than a true port, that would be fantastic. And it seems, again, going off the little we've seen, it really does seem to be a more, a much more updated take on this game than Mario Kart, for instance. And seeing as that was such a monumental game for Wii U, I think having that day one could be a massive win for the Switch.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway here, other than 3D Mario on launch day, is the fact that Splatoon be a pack-in, because Splatoon was Nintendo's big breakout surprise hit of the Wii U generation, but no one played it because it was on Wii U. So, leveraging all that goodwill and leveraging the fact that people really latched onto Splatoon and kind of circumventing now the fact that it was only on Wii U, I think they really are smart to have it as a pack-in. And or to have it on day one, because Splatoon is something I think a lot of people wanted to play, but just didn't because they didn't have a Wii U or didn't want to buy a Wii U because they didn't see a lot of value in it. So Splatoon is obviously much more valuable and it is much more valuable and much bigger than the Wii U itself. And
it totally is.
Yeah.
I mean, it was held back by the Wii U.
Exactly, and I mean this really is Nintendo's big new IP, and it's a breakout hit, and it was really only held back by the Wii U. So without that kind of blockade, kind of holding it back anymore, I think Splatoon has a real chance to shine the way it was always meant to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. So just looking at this, and again, I am sure there's going to be far more at launch than just these games, especially when it comes to third-party games, or maybe even only when it comes to third-party games. But just looking at the small amount of games we know about so far, this looks to be a pretty diverse lineup. You get your 3D Mario platformer, which is huge, by the way. I haven't really touched on that yet. I think that is a big thing. We haven't had a 3D Mario game launch for a Nintendo platform since the 64, so that is great.
Right.
We're potentially getting a RPG or an XCOM style RPG. We're getting Splatoon, which covers the online multiplayer angle. Skyrim, which, as you touched on, covers it like the meaty RPG single player focused game. And then Just Dance kind of has, might have the local multiplayer, kind of like, the party game locked down.
Right.
The only thing that is missing is a first party local multiplayer heavy title. And not that you don't necessarily need that at launch, but it is something that seems to be missing here. Rumor has it, 3D Mario might have a co-op, and Splatoon might have a new local multiplayer mode as well. But I don't think either of those are going to fill that gap that like a Mario Kart or Smash Brothers would have.
Right. Well, which brings us to our first 6 months, which is probably exactly why they have, at least we think they have, Smash and Mario Kart planned for the first 6 months.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So, alright, let's go down this list here. So, Laura is saying beyond launch, the first 6 months of the game, or of the system, are going to contain, again, going by her sources, this could change. I want to drive that home. This is all rumor. All this could change at a drop of a hat. But within the first 6 months, she's saying, as of now, we're going to see Smash Brothers port along with the Bayonetta and Cloud Amiibo on the same day. Zelda Breath of the Wild, Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy. She's saying that's going to be very close to launch, in fact.
And that's actually a big one.
Yeah, you think so?
Think about it. Yeah, I mean, just because I feel like that hits that kind of licensed game itch for a lot of kids who are really going to be into that new movie, the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think that comes out around that time.
That's a great point. Yeah, the timing does work out, and that is another. I mean, that is a big series, and Telltale's games have done very well for themselves.
Yeah,
like, all those crossover things, like Game of Thrones, Walking Dead.
Right,
they're popular.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we have Mario Kart 8. Something new here, a Xenoblade Chronicles X port, which she's saying would come in late summer, and then a Mario Maker port as well, which is something we haven't heard much about. So, what do you think of that lineup overall?
This is I'm really happy with that lineup in the first 6 months, and as I said, I think like the kind of secret hit, surprise here might be that Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy game, because as you said, they continue to be really popular games. Mm-hmm. And I believe this is around when the new Guardians movie's coming out, so I think having that really strong kind of licensed tie-in near launch is going to be helpful as well. So I think that's actually a bigger deal than it might appear to be at first. But then, of course, you have the big ones, which are for local multiplayer, which are Mario Kart 8 and Smash, and you got to have those in the first 6 months. I think one of the biggest things that held the Wii U back was that it took it so long to get Mario Kart 8. and it really could have used it just a little bit sooner. So I'm glad that we're getting Mario Kart 8 Plus, allegedly, within the first 6 months. And then you got Smash, which is awesome. I'm just confused that Laura has not heard about Corrin. Not that I really care about a Corrin amiibo. I'm just confused. Like, why would they hold Bayonetta and Cloud back for, like, 2 years? The amiibo, at least. For, like, or, like, a year, or however long it is. But she hasn't heard about Corrin. Like, that whole thing about those 3 characters and their amiibo just continues to be so weird.
I mean, it has to be just for marketing reasons at this point,
I think.
Right,
I guess so.
Yeah.
Just because they figured the Wii U is already petering out.
And I'm guessing, too, that there's going to be even more amiibo in addition to that, because I'm still convinced there's going to be more characters added to the Smash port. At the very least, Ice Climber is probably an inkling. We talked about all this before, and they have their own amiibo as well. So you'd be able to launch right there with, let's say 4 or 5 amiibo. So I think that makes sense as a new wave, I think.
Right. Now, here on the list, though, Laura says Mario Kart 8 port has minor additions, but that kind of flies in the face of the other rumors we've been hearing about it getting 16 new tracks.
Right.
Another, however many, like 12 new characters, and completely like a legitimate battle mode. So that's interesting, I find, just because that's the first we've heard of Mario Kart 8 maybe not getting the overwhelming additions that we've been hearing that it would.
I mean, I think it depends on your definition of minor. Like, I think it just depends how you define that, right? Because it's still the same base game, all the same base content, just a lot of new content stacked on top of that. It's like an elaborate DLC pack.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. For Mario Kart, I don't know if I would consider 16 tracks, 12 characters, and a whole new battle mode minor.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's minor either, but I could maybe see how it's perceived that way. I mean, I forget now. Was it? I guess Laura didn't report on those rumors about Mario Kart, right?
I don't think she did.
And I don't want to put words into her mouth, so because we know, everyone's dealing with slightly different sources here.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, we've heard ourselves the 16 tracks and battle mode rumors. So yeah, I mean, I think it might just be a matter of perspective. It's still the same base game, just more stuff added to it.
Sure, yeah.
Regardless, I agree. I wouldn't consider them minor either. I think those are big additions. And I think that's exciting. Like, it'd be nice to have a Mario Kart that isn't just a straight up port of the Wii U one and has enough new content that could kind of be its own game. The 16 new tracks is essentially, I mean, I guess it depends how. I guess the thing I'm not sure about is if those 16 new tracks are like 16 brand new tracks, or they're going to be split like the DLC, where half of them, or actually, did the DLC split them up that way, where half are new tracks and half?
It's not exactly half, but there's a bit of both. There's
Right.
some new stuff and there's some retro stuff. But,
Okay, yeah.
Even the retro stuff like Cheeseland and Ribbon Road, I mean, those feel like new tracks because they've been completely remade from the ground up. So even if it was 8 new tracks and 8 retro tracks and these 16 new alleged tracks for Mario Kart 8 Plus or Switch, whatever you want to call it, even if it's like 8 new retro tracks, that's still fine with me.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with that. Like, especially Mario Kart 8, the way they remade some of those tracks, it might as well have been new tracks. Like, Cheeseland, as you mentioned, that is essentially a brand new track, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, and still, all I care about is this keeps my dream of having a Mario Kart 8 looking version of Airship Fortress from Mario Kart DS. But the dream is still alive. Remember, I wanted that added as DLC.
I do. It's a good track. They should add it.
It's a great track, so I'm hoping that it will live as part of Mario Kart 8 Plus, or that's what I'm calling it anyway.
And the new battle mode, that is something that by itself would generate a lot of hype. I mean, assuming they nail it. Because there have been battle modes many times since the 64 version, and none of them have been able to capture the same magic, I feel like. Double Dash probably got the closest. Since then, they've, like, the Wii one even botched it too, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too. I mean, literally all they need to do here is bring back the 4th map from Super Mario Kart and like the block fort from whatever game that one was from, and just those and like the donut, the big donut track, like those 3 tracks, battle mode, I'm good. Yeah, like just that's all we need. Balloons, don't try to gussy it up. Yeah,
they could literally just port over Mario Kart 64's battle mode, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't try to add any weird features. Just give me 3 balloons. Yep. One gets popped every time I get bit by a shell, and that's it. I don't need anything on top of that. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think about Xenoblade coming to the system? Because as far as I know, that is a new rumor. It's one I haven't heard before.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard this before, and honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I had kind of thought that might happen, or that it should happen, just because I feel like, again, it's not quite as quite to the degree of Splatoon, but Xenoblade Chronicles X is a massive game. It's a high-quality game that has a lot of awesome content, and it was held back by virtue of the fact that it was only on Wii U.
Right.
This is a game that really, it's a massive game in terms of scope and scale, and it's a game that I think deserves to be played by more people, and I assume that Nintendo agrees with that, which is why they're allegedly porting it to Switch, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, that's the kind of game, too, that would be really fun to have on the go, because it's, there's so much to it, and you can make, little incremental progress just exploring in bits, and that's, taking it on the go with you, that's even better.
That really is the most exciting thing, or one of the most exciting things about the Switch. It's something I've been thinking about a little bit more about how it'll fit into my life. And there is something really appealing about just being able to take the game with you and just continue playing from exactly where you were at. That is really cool. And that is something that's going to factor into both Xenoblade and Zelda here, like both two massive games, even Skyrim as well.
I know myself, and as an enthusiast gamer, and I assume you're probably the same way, Andre. Like, there will be times where I could take something away, or I could play like off TV play, for example.
Right.
But I want to have that full HD cinematic, TV experience. So
sure.
I'll actually choose not to play, even though I have time to. So I'm wondering how much that's going to affect me with the Switch. Like Zelda, for example, that's going to be the kind of game where you want to be immersed. You're going to hear the sounds of nature all around you. You're going to want to be immersed in that version of Hyrule, and that's not something that's as easy to do when you're playing on the go on the bus, for example.
You can wear headphones though, and that'll get you pretty close to the sound at least.
True, but I mean, headphones, especially, and this actually is a legitimate complaint, I think, Nintendo consoles tend to max out their volume at a fairly low threshold. So, like, you're playing your 3DS on a plane or something, even if you have the volume all the way up, you can't really hear it all that well. So if the Switch is the same way, then, again, that's like the kind of thing where, am I going to want to take it to go and play, if I can't quite hear it?
Yeah. I mean, that's all a good point. I mean, I feel the exact same way. Like, I don't play games outside the house. I think the situation is a little bit different, though, because the gamepad, it's limited to your house already, so why not just play it on your TV? Whereas this, you can, if you're taking it to your, say your parents' house for, like, the holidays, you can play it as you're going there. If you're taking
that's a good
transit
point
or something, so...
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. I mean, I agree with you. In general, I'll probably be playing it on the TV, but the fact that you can play it while en route to somewhere else is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, speaking of games of the Zelda scale, another rumor here, as part of this, is that she's hearing that there's a demo for Zelda Breath of the Wild in development, but she'd later clarify that she doesn't know if that's for public or just for press. Now that's really interesting for any number of reasons, because Nintendo doesn't usually make... I mean, we don't hear rumors about press demos at all, even though Nintendo does...
Right.
Sometimes... I guess they do... Actually, now I'm trying to think back now to all the games I've played. Like, they obviously make demos for E3 and events of that nature. Otherwise, I think they're usually showing us pretty complete, either the final version of the game or, versions of the game currently in development. Like, you never hear about demos specifically being made. So, this is an odd one. I'm inclined to think if there's a demo at all for public, it won't come out before the game comes out. It may be same day. I don't think we'll get a demo for Breath of the Wild before it comes out because of fears of, data hacking.
Yeah.
And, especially in the case of that game where you can literally see most of the world around you. If you could get the camera off that plateau, that would be Spoiler City for...
Exactly. and with, somebody will figure out how to. I mean, even, I think, like, a couple of weeks after the original Final Fantasy 15 demo came out, somebody had already figured out how to get beyond the borders and go explore the entire region that you're not supposed to see. And Nintendo has been so guarded with this game. Like, they've been so... They've so finely controlled the public's perception of this game and what they show and what they don't show. There's no way Nintendo's going to put all that power and all that potential spoiler power into the hands of players before the game even comes out. This is such a big deal game to them. There's no way they're going to take that risk. Why would they?
Now you're playing with spoiler power.
Exactly. And I mean, there is literally nothing to be gained from them taking that risk because they've already sold people on the game.
Yeah, Zelda doesn't...
They've already sold it via E3. Like, it's amazing, it looks amazing, and people are excited about it.
Zelda doesn't need a demo. You don't need a demo for this game. I could see one coming out. I said day one earlier, even that's not going to happen. I don't know why I even suggested that. I could maybe see a demo down the line.
Sure.
To show it off to people who maybe had no interest or haven't picked up by that point.
Yeah, I could see that.
I agree. Like, there's no demo for the public coming before launch. This must be something related to the press.
Yeah.
Maybe Nintendo would do something they've never done before and send out an actual specific demo version to the press before the game comes out for maybe preview purposes. But that's something Nintendo usually does. At their office, they invite you to an event like Splatoon, for instance. That was an all-day thing up in Washington at their headquarters. I don't know why they wouldn't do the same thing for Zelda, but maybe with the game being so expansive, they'd want to give us a little bit more of a taste of it than a single day could accommodate.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. What I'm thinking is that they're possibly scrambling because they thought they figured press thought they would have the game in their hands by March or April, around the Switch's launch. And now that it's looking like it might be delayed to summer at least, maybe they're thinking, okay, we really need to get another chunk of this game into the hands of the press. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why we're hearing about it. But I do agree that it's weird that we're hearing about this at all.
Yeah, that is an odd thing. And thinking about it more too, I mean, I almost wonder if, I think I've read stories over the years about how demos can be damaging to games. People get their fill from it. And while I don't think that's necessarily a huge concern in Breath of the Wild, I could maybe see that to some degree because there's already so much you could do in just the E3 demo. I could see potentially someone sitting down playing the demo and be like, you know what? I've got my fill of this. I got climbs on cliffs, grab some mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and plus, it's also weird. I mean, you're saying they might send it out to press, which is fine, but all it takes is one untrusted source that they're sending this demo to send it out and make it available publicly, and then they're hosed. So even, I mean, if they're going to send out a press demo, I feel like it's going to be very specific outlets. They would have to be so guarded with this.
They really would be, yeah.
Because look what happened with Smash with that ESRB leak, or that supposed ESRB leak. I mean, that was the ESRB, and some crappy employee got a hold of it and leaked the whole game onto the internet.
Yeah.
Which and that could happen so easily with Zelda, so they have to be so careful.
They really do. That's for sure. Especially in this era of data mining, where we're finding out stuff about games well ahead of any other potential leaks, even. So,
exactly.
Okay, final thing in the first 6 months we haven't really touched on here, a Mario Maker port. And we've talked about this just in terms of general expectations, but I think this is the first time we've really heard it concretely rumored, especially for that first 6 months window.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, what do you think?
Not surprising. I mean, again, this is another excellent game that deserves to be played by more people than own the Wii U. Mm-hmm. So it's another great Nintendo game that Nintendo wants more people to play. I mean, as evidenced by the fact that they're putting on 3DS. So yeah, I mean, this is not surprising at all. I had always kind of assumed Mario Maker would show up within the first year. The first 6 months is even better. So yeah.
Are you expecting a straight up port of this one, or do you think they might add more to it?
I feel like if there's any game that's going to have no or very little new content, it's probably going to be Mario Maker. Like compared to Smash or Mario Kart, I feel like Mario Maker's the one that stands the most chance of not really being all that updated, just because they have such a massive infrastructure already in place. Like, it sounds great to be able to say, oh, maybe they'll add like a Mario 2 theme, but I feel like that would involve them going back and really kind of modifying their entire infrastructure for the game when they already have one that works well. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I see them adding anything huge like that. Maybe small, like minor things, like some new course elements or some new sound effects. Like, I could see like a few things like that, but I'm not thinking we're going to get a major new theme or something.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong, but I totally agree. If there's any game that's going to be a straight up port, it's going to be this one. With that said, I fully expect them to continue to support it after release. With additional content coming down the line, much as they have already on the Wii U. The question is if that content will be added to the Wii U one as well, or if they'll just solely focus on the Switch version. And it also raises the question of, is there going to be any kind of cross-compatibility? Like, if you make a level on the Switch version, can you access it on the Wii U one, and vice versa?
I mean, I honestly don't even think they're imagining the Wii U to be a thing by then. Like, I mean, of course, although they are announced that they are releasing Zelda on Wii U.
Because they have to. They lock themselves
they have
that.
to.
Yeah.
But and I said this in, I think, another discussion, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a mail order or special order only thing, where you have to buy it from Nintendo themselves.
Mario Maker?
No, sorry, Zelda for Wii U. Breath of the Wild for Wii U. That would not surprise me. So, given that, I don't know if I believe Mario Maker is going to have like cross-platform support between Wii U and Switch. I kind of feel like, Wii U production's ending. Like, they've made it very clear that the Wii U is dead.
Right.
So why even bother having it connect to the Wii U? You know.
I
Especially
mean,
if they're trying to get people away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'd just be for fear of backlash or goodwill. Just because if you have a Wii U and you're not upgrading, I could see some people, being disappointed in that they can't play these new levels being made by people on a different console, even if if the base game is the same. So it is going to be interesting. I mean, at the very least, I do hope the Switch version allows you to access all the Wii U ones. Especially because I really don't want to remake all those courses that I made. I don't want to do
Oh, me
that.
too. I mean, and that's a good point. Like, not just Mario Maker, but Mario Kart 8 and Smash. Like, I don't want to unlock all that stuff again. All those trophies and Smash. And, I mean, obviously, I love Smash, and I basically have unlocked everything in it, but I don't want to do it again.
Right.
And I don't really want to go through all the cups in Mario Kart 8 again. So I really hope there's... I don't know how Nintendo would do this, and I feel like Nintendo would be the least likely to do something like this, but I hope there's a way that you can not have to redo all that progress for Wii U owners to carry over that progress somehow.
Just have it unlocked.
Yeah, or just have it unlocked. But, like, it's not just that, though, right? It's stuff like your individual player records in Smash, for example. Like, there's a lot of really, really granular data that you can go into to look at, each player's, character user statistics and each character's different data in Smash, for example. And, that's, like, very tailored to each person's specific play experience with that game.
Yeah.
So having to, kind of like start fresh again would kind of suck. I don't know. I'm sure that's what's going to have to happen, but it would be nice if there is a way to carry over your save data from Wii U games that are getting ported to Switch.
I mean, that'd be nice. That's not going to happen, though.
There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge deal, but we pretty much covered it for the first 6 months. I do want to say, like, looking at this from day one up to the first 6 months, which presumably is through August or September of 2017, that is a pretty killer lineup. Like, there is a lot of stuff here. Like, I mean, most of their major properties are being touched on. 3D Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Smash. That is freaking big stuff in a 6 month window.
Yeah, not to mention Xenoblade and Mario Maker and Pokemon and Pikmin, which we're gonna get to.
Right. Well, that's
you said
beyond the first
6 months, I guess.
Yeah. So I just want to comment on that. Like, this is a ridiculous 6 months we're looking at.
It also doesn't include stuff we don't know about.
It doesn't. Right. This is purely mostly first party focused, and there may be more beyond this, and especially third party stuff that we have no idea about. So that is going to be a very exciting time. The only slight drag on this, which as Laura also points out, is, a lot of these are ports. A lot of these are games you've already played before this to different degrees. So I think a lot of it is going to come down to is how enhanced these ports are in making this feel a little bit more palpable for basically double dipping. Like, we're probably paying full price for most of these games, I'm guessing.
Right. But they're probably doing this with an eye toward all the people who aren't double dipping because of all the people who didn't buy a Wii U. So we're in the minority. Unfortunately,
you're right, but that's not a demographic you want to make upset either. So I think
it's true. Yeah,
I mean, but that is. I mean, the Wii U owners are your most hardcore of fans.
Exactly.
So the last thing you probably want to do is make them upset either. So I think you want to make these games feel as fresh and new as possible in order to make it seem worthwhile to double dip on these games.
Right.
Alright, and that's unfortunately where we need to cut off the discussion for now, because we went on for quite a bit longer. But we'll be back with part 2 very soon, where we discuss the rest of Switch's rumored 2017 lineup, including Pokemon Stars, the next Pikmin game, and much more.